So this is not a hi, this is raise your hand if you're tired from web development in general. Yeah, me too, I know. Kasia couldn't make the talk and she had to go back home because her daughter was sick, so if we can give a round of applause because she did an amazing thing, I think. And I asked her for permission to post the picture, so don't jump on me on Twitter. How could you use that without permission? So her talk was CSS under the hood, so I thought I'm going to do her an honor and actually do her talk. So it's not about the hype-driven development. I'm actually going to talk about CSS under the hood. So I think, I'm not an expert, but I think that CSS under the hood looks something like this. Approximately, it should be like this, I don't know. But also I don't like that we're like, too harsh on CSS. Like CSS nowadays is not that bad, right? We have Flexbox, we have Grid. I can do something like this with Grid. This is my favorite mixin that I'm using with like JavaScript. I can write this and I can put it in any div and I get like a magical responsive design. So if you use this on a gallery, you get behavior like this. Like literally with one line, you get responsive design and columns and everything that it took a bootstrap expert to do this for a week. So you can do it with one line now. So if you look at this, we're like, wait. Can you go back a few slides for me just to see something? I'm like, yeah, okay, is there anything wrong here? This is JavaScript, this is JavaScript. And you're like, you just put JS in my CSS, how dare you? How dare you make me use this language that I already know? And I want to use this other invented thing that doesn't make much sense, okay? I want to use that. But I'm not here to convince you about CSS in JS. I gave up on this. My first talk was, I think, 2016 in a meetup, and I was talking about CSS in JS. I'll always regret giving that talk. Everyone is like, well, convince me. I'm like, I'm trying to make your life easier, so I'm not going to sit there to convince you. At the last conference, someone was like, can you come at our company and convince our managers to adopt CSS in JS? Like, no. That's like someone telling you, can you go home and argue with my wife instead of me going like, no, why would I do that? So I'm not here to convince you. And also, we picked the worst name for it, like CSS in JS, so I don't blame that people don't like it. We couldn't pick something like Stylix or something. No, CSS in JS. So, but what I hate is most developers that are not adopting CSS in JS are not concerned about performance. They're not concerned about any of these things. They're just concerned that they have to sit down and drop all of their knowledge from the previous years about scaling CSS, all of the books they read about how we can adopt BAM and SAS and combine them. So you have to drop all of that and learn something new. And most people don't like that. So they're like, I think that performance. You have a simple website. You're not going to be hurt by that performance. So this is a tiny thing that I hate because to me, I had to drink water before the talk. So if someone can, these are used waters, but no, this is not open. So to me, it reminds me, this is my last slide about CSS. I'm joking that my talk is actually about CSS. I have water, it's fine. I don't have beer, so maybe beer would help. So to me, it reminds me like we're in the age of electricity and there are people going like, well, I have 30 years experience with candles. Well, good, but we kind of moved on to electricity, so why? Anyway, we're not going to talk about CSS in JS here. Let me introduce myself. I'm Kitze. I'm the Kitze on Twitter. I love making products. I used to say that I love open source. Yesterday, they gave me at the conference an open source passport, which I don't deserve, because I like open sourcing things, but I don't like maintaining them. So I don't have any notifications coming anywhere. I just ignore that. I love speaking. I love teaching. We did 2 workshops. So with this conference, for the past 2 days, we were doing a React Advanced workshop. But the thing that I'm focused on for the past couple of months, I've been working on a browser for developers and designers. It's called Sizzy. You can check it out at sizzy.co. So it's not only for responsive design, like looking at multiple devices at once, but it's also for like A/B testing, and it can really, really help you when you're, especially when you're working on these tricky landing pages with different kinds of support for different devices and so on. So what happens now is you put in your notes and you're like, wow, this is cool. And then you see it, it's $5. You're like, fuck, I don't need it. I'm going to resize my window myself. just a little heads up so you don't get disappointed. So to move on, this is the talk originally is called Navigating the Hype-Driven Front-End Development World Without Going Insane. But the moment I announced it last year, someone was like, you cannot say that, it's 2018. Okay, I'm not gonna say that. I changed it to crazy. They're like, no, you cannot say crazy. I'm like, can I change it to nuts without going nuts? They're like, and I could change it to nuts, but someone back there is going to be like, my cousin is allergic to nuts. So I just give up on this year, and I just call this Navigating the Hype-Driven Front-End Development World. That's the name of the talk. So let's start. This is the vision of yourself after the conference, not because London is sunny and you have a nice beach, but you thought like finally I'm going to enjoy. It's been a full day of talks. But the reality of you after the conference is something like this. Not because it's hot in London, but because for the entire day, people have been filling your head with different kind of libraries and ideas and frameworks. So today is Friday, you go, slip it off, and on Monday you walk in the office, we have to refactor fucking everything. This guy said Formic, this guy said TypeScript, this girl said about GraphQL, we have to change fucking everything. And I'm here to tell you not to do that. So this is you after the conference, and this is me, not because I don't have this fear of missing out, because I was stuck at the advice lounge just giving advice to 4 people for the entire day, so I didn't watch any of the talks. Everyone has FOMO, but let's see what is FOMO before we see how we can have no FOMO. So the fear of missing out on Wikipedia is defined, it's a boring definition, but basically it means other people have fun, other people make awesome things, and you're missing out on all of that. Everyone has their version of FOMO. I have this one. It's FOMO something, and it means fear of mofos on Twitter tweeting dev stuff that you cannot find elsewhere. And I think everyone, if you don't have Twitter, you're blessed. Never open Twitter, just enjoy your life. And because you're going to have this constant anxiety that other people do things. Like yesterday at the workshop, we finished at 5:50 p.m., and I tell them, so suspense is not ready yet, there's nothing out, and this is how you should use data fetching. So we talked like for 8 hours about this thing. 5:52, they announce on Twitter that everything is changing in React. I'm like, fuck, I have to prepare new material now. So, yeah, we constantly have this FOMO, but why do we have it? In order to cure it, we need to know why do we actually have it, because we doubt ourselves, we doubt the code that we're writing, we focus on the wrong things, we obsess with the wrong metrics, we have a lot of free time. We have a lot of free time, okay? If you have a PlayStation at your company, just don't complain to me about anything. And we love to procrastinate. So we're gonna get into this step by step. The first things are we focus on the wrong things and we obsess with the wrong metrics. So I'm gonna give you this example. When I started learning GraphQL, I sat down for a beer with a friend, and he was already experienced. They were building GraphQL backends and everything. And he started explaining about their GraphQL backend. He's like, it's super fast, and we have 7 layers of caching, so the data is going from this layer to this layer, and then we have microservices. And like, I lost him after the second word, and I'm like, yeah, I get you, yep. And then I had to interrupt him because the dude wouldn't stop. And I'm like, wait, what are you building? Are you building the new Facebook? Are you building Pinterest? Why are you optimizing that much? And she was like, no, it's just a landing page for a hospital. Like, there's not going to be a situation when the nurse is going to be like, doctor, we're losing the patient because our landing page is not fast enough. Why the fuck would you optimize the landing page that much? And everyone is doing this. He's not the only one who's guilty of over-engineering things. So, without ourselves and without our code, raise your hand if you feel like this. You made something, it works, and you think it's awesome, but you're not sure if it's right. So only the lazy people won't raise their hand, because literally everyone in this room feels like this. When you write something, you're like, but do the people on Twitter approve it? Because you feel all the time that they are smarter. Whatever you write, somebody needs to approve the thing, right? But there's no right and wrong. There's just this perception that there's something right and wrong, and we believe these people, the thought leaders or whoever, but nobody's actually right. So for all the advice that I give and all the questions in my workshops or during the talks or the advice lounge, everything can boil down to one sentence. It depends. So whatever you ask, should we change from blah, blah, blah to blah? It depends. So nobody is right about anything. Nobody has the right tech stack. It all depends. But we're falling for it all the time. We all know this person who's like, holy shit, you haven't tried Redux Helicopter 4.7? It's just the most amazing thing. We use it in our company. It saves us so much money. And if you actually follow me on Twitter, you're going to be like, wait, fucker, that's ironic, because you are doing this on Twitter. And I admit that sometimes I like to have fun. Like before before Webpack 4 was out, I tweeted something like this: the CoffeeScript plugin for Babel 7, used in combination with blah, 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 it changed my life. And if you see those 4 replies, there are literally people who fell for it. CoffeeScript is back? No, like CoffeeScript died years ago, but people still, when they see that someone else combine something with something, immediately they're like, we need to refactor to that thing, right? But it's fucking CoffeeScript, are you kidding me? So I'm guilty of this, but I'm doing it as a joke. I'm doing this talk just to do the opposite of that, basically. So before you follow someone else's advice, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's somewhere else, you have to evaluate who is this person you're listening to, and are they actually the right person to listen to. So before you listen to any of what I'm saying on stage, you have to evaluate my little profile. So here's something about me. I'm jobless. Basically, I work for me. I'm working only on the workshops and on CZ. I can choose my own stack, and I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I have all the time in the world to experiment, and I'll make a Christmas tree out of this slide, so why would you trust me for anything? I don't know. Just know about all of this before you follow the rest of this talk. You can leave at this point, it's fine. And yet, this is the most important point. I still don't blindly jump to everything that comes out. I'm not going to use Formic 2 for a year just to prove that. No, I'm kidding. But if I see a lot of value, I'm going to jump to it. Otherwise, it's fine. It exists, just leave it aside. It's okay. So how do we get to this point of FOMO, NOMO? How do we kill the FOMO? We have to recognize the breaking point first to see when do we have this big problem and what are we actually solving to move on. So the questions are, how easy is the transition from A to B? Is now the right time? It's never the right time, right? We just love to procrastinate, but it's never the right time. And do I really need it? Most of the time, no, but you like to have fun at work, so. How did I do my decisions? I'm going to give you one example, and specifically the one that I love is my CSS journey. So why did I move from A to B to C to D? We had zillion CSS solutions. So I started with normal CSS, as everyone, right? Eventually it didn't scale, you had a lot of problems, you couldn't reuse things, there were no variables. Then I adopted Sass, then I adopted BEM, then I realized I'm becoming Angelina Jolie of adopting CSS things around me, and I'm like, wait, can something else solve this thing for me, right? So then I moved to Aphrodite, then to style components, then to glamorous, then to emotion. There's a story behind each breaking point. I moved to Aphrodite because I see, okay, so the robots can do the job for me. I don't have to do anything with Sass and BEM manually. Perfect. Then I saw style components. Max showed it to me the day basically before giving his talk. And I'm like, nobody is going to write style components. Putting my CSS in template literals is never going to happen. And then the next day I had an app with style components. So when I saw it, how easy it makes everything, I'm like, holy shit, this changes everything. But I didn't like it because it didn't use objects, it used strings. So I moved to glamorous, which is literally style components with objects. And then when Ken decided to deprecate glamorous, he told everyone, hey, just move to emotion, it's the same thing. And then I moved to that. But basically they're more or less the same concept, it's just with objects. And in one of my repos, Max wanted to show me that emotion and style components are more or less the same thing. So he just converted my entire repo to style components and opened a pull request. So I felt a little bit bad, and I'm like, okay. And since that moment, I just continued using style components and I'm not moving back to something else, because it works. I know there's this X solution. I know that Facebook yesterday announced they're coming up with their own CSS in JS library. If this thing works for me, I'm going to keep using it until I find some real value in the other things that exist. Stop measuring kilobytes. I hate this, because every time, let's see style components as an example, let's take it. People are immediately, oh, but what about the runtime cost? But are you Facebook? You're not Facebook. You're a small company. You have 3 developers. You have 7 users. And they're all in USA. And they have a fast internet connection and an iPhone 8 Plus. They're not somewhere in a tunnel, so don't make your lighthouse score 100% and stop measuring things that don't matter to you. They might matter to Facebook, they might matter to Google, to whoever else, because they're making YouTube, and it needs to be fast. And they are measuring kilobytes, but they're also measuring money and users, so all of their decisions are driven by data and money, and they're backed up by a lot of things, and our decisions are based on reading tweets and reading Medium articles, just the title. Switch to this. Style components is bad. Oh my God, they said run. It's going to be fine for most of you. You're not Facebook, you're not Google. Another example that I have for measuring kilobytes is when we started using Apollo and GraphQL, immediately we hit the biggest problem. It's still nowadays a problem, the GraphQL Apollo cache. It sucks, okay, let's be honest. So in order to update your queries after a mutation, you have to go through all of this mumbo jumbo just to update something that changed on your server. So after a while, our client was changing their mind constantly about how they want the app to look. So we would spend entire weeks on optimizing the Apollo cache, and then they're going to be like, well, I want to change half of my app. And then we would spend weeks and weeks just messing with the Apollo cache. And I was bitching on Twitter about it so much that the Apollo team told me, why don't you just reset the store? Client.reset store. I'm like, what does it do? It's going to trigger all of your queries. Once again, you're going to get a tiny loading spinner, a couple of kilobytes of data, and your data is fresh. And I'm like, perfect. So we replaced all of the cache invalidation code with client.resetStore. They're literally half of the people in the room, they're hurting. So many kilobytes are wasted, right? It hurts so much. But until you measure, until you see your AWS bill and you roll it on the floor and you're like, holy shit, we're wasting so much money, you cannot prove that these kilobytes actually mean anything, right? Eventually, with refetch query, you're refetching the same query. So if you're resetting the store, you're refetching the query, but you make it easier for your team. There were scenarios where we wanted to have optimistic UI, we actually updated the cache and so on, but for most scenarios, resetting the store was fine. So that's what I'm saying. Stop measuring kilobytes and see actually if it brings any real value or if it is a real problem. Sleep on it. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying don't learn new things. I'm not saying don't constantly evolve and try to be better and so on. But we need to sleep before. I had someone at a workshop who said, sometimes I go in my GitHub start repos, I see the modules, and I just install them one by one in my project. What? He's like, over time I'm bookmarking them and then I just try all of them. And I'm assuming he's keeping like 7 out of 10, which is bad. So don't go on this crazy NPM modules shopping spree. There was this dude in real life who froze his credit cards, but literally froze them in the freezer because he was a shopping addict. So he would put the credit card in the freezer because when he wanted to buy something, he sees a TV and he's like, oh fuck, now I have to go home, unfreeze the card. And by the next day, he would sleep on it. He's like, I don't need a fucking TV, I have 3. So we should also sleep on all of our decisions. When you see Facebook or someone introducing something, just sleep on it and discuss with your team before you're like, oh, we must refactor. So don't get too comfortable. So know that these things exist. Like, know what is GraphQL. Does it solve your use case? CSS and JS. Whatever buzzwords, just have them in your brain, but don't go too deep into it. Because I see these examples of people, you're going to see someone who is literally diving into an SVG article and reading like for hours, and then they're like, oh, I know how to do this and that, but he's not using it at the project. And then 6 months later, he's going to Google how to circle SVG. Right? So don't go deep into topics that you're not actually going to apply, but also don't sleep and be like, our tech stack is the best and nothing else exists. Just stop learning just in case stuff. And there's the next point, which a lot of people are going to hate, is less abstractions. So this is our brain on cocaine. It's nothing to do with abstractions, but this is a scientific scan which area of the brain is lighting up on cocaine. On sugar, it's even worse. I know it's depressing, it hurts. We all had sweets today, but it's even worse. But the area that lights up when a developer sees an abstraction, it's this. Right? You feel so fucking smart when you see 2 same lines. You're like, oh, this is a class, right? I'm going to take it, I'm going to extend this other class, and I'm the best programmer ever. We always had that feeling. Since like high school days, you see a couple of things. Oh, this is a CSS class. And then when you go down into all of these abstractions, after a couple of uses of that abstraction, you realize, fuck, this wasn't an abstraction, and you go back. So just imagine on the scale of every company ever, how many developers are just going back and forth. Like, oh, we have this thing that can be replaced by that library. You replace it, you spend a week, you're like, fuck, our custom thing was actually better. Then 1 more week, you reverse it. So what is the solution to this, just abstracting and unabstracting all the time? I know, you hate it, right? You don't want to copy-paste because it makes you feel dumb. You're like, but they're the same thing. Why would you copy-paste this when I can put it into a function? Because when you copy-paste it a couple of times and you actually prove that it's an abstraction, then you can reuse it, make it an abstraction, publish a library, whatever you do. But we're suffering from this, that this literally hurts people. When they see 2 things, they're like, oh, this cannot be copy-pasted. Someone commented on, because I've given this talk before, someone said, this was an amazing talk, but I stopped watching after he said more copy-paste. So, should I leave? So yeah, more copy-paste can actually be make you more productive. So I told you what not to focus on, so let's see some examples of what we can focus on instead. This is just a wild guess, this one, the first one. We can focus on the people we're literally building apps for, right? Day to day, we're just focused on our job, we're just focused on our computer, on our code, but we're forgetting that we're actually shipping stuff for the users to use. Because at work, we love to entertain ourselves by what I call positive procrastination. And what if positive procrastination is when you have a form with 2 input fields, like let's say a year ago, 2 years ago, 2 input fields, username and password, and you want to submit it to the server, and instead of using freaking jQuery or vanilla JavaScript to take the values. You spent a day on Redux and Redux Saga and Redux Form and combining them together to make a login form. So it makes you feel good. You go home, you go to your husband, wife, you're like, it was amazing at work. I feel so good. I'm the best. And then your user goes and he's like, oh, this fucking thing, I cannot even log in. Like, the user has totally different perception. He doesn't care if it's Redux Saga, Redux Form, Formic, whatever. He just wants to log in. So sometimes try to solve the actual problem for the user instead of just making entertainment for yourself. Because no users ever said any of these quotes. Did you see that blog? The underlying text tag is amazing. They want to read blog posts. How many people launched a blog in the past month but have no articles? So they spend like weeks on building a blog. Oh, my text tag is Gatsby with Teams, with this, with serverless, AWS. Did you write something? Nah. Every person does this, right? But the users don't care. They want to read stuff. Or nobody said this. I totally love that website because the Lighthouse score is 100%. Somebody made a personal portfolio and screenshotted their scores from Lighthouse, and the PWA score was 96 instead of 100. Someone is like, haha, it's not 100. It's a personal portfolio. No one's going to pin it on their home screen, right? So nobody cares if it's like, but we suffer from this. Wrong metrics. Nobody said this. I love that landing page because it's not using style components and it doesn't hurt runtime performance. Nobody cares. It's a nice landing page. It loads fast enough. Nobody cares about the underlying stack. And literally no one says this. Oh, but it's functional. Oh, but it's pure. Oh, but when I introduced like something mutable at a workshop, immediately people, but this is mutable. They taught us that Redux shouldn't be mutable. And we're still sticking to that instead of seeing like there are other solutions. The users say one thing, and we're like, introducing dark mode. Like in your backlog in the company, you have 20,000 issues, and you pick the one that's interesting to you, dark mode with Gatsby, right? But there are literally millions of bugs. So I love this tweet by Sahil. It says, these are called desire lines. So you build this circle because it's pretty for you, to your team. You're like, we're amazing. This is our CSS in JS thing. And then the user goes straight to it because that's convenient for them. So we should do this in software more. Just listen, measure, and act according to what the user wants. So, but what do we care about actually? Let's be honest, what do we care about? So we're going to start with this. Then we have this. I'm tired of all of them. Folder architecture. How do you store your hooks? How do you store your... Just put them in a fucking folder, all of them. All of them. Is it scary? Take all of your components, put them in one folder. What about nesting by route? Just tabs versus spaces, so old, semicolons. Just use them. They're standard. Use them. Don't be a hipster. Webpack is hard. We know this. We have established this. Use an abstraction on top of Webpack. Don't sweat your custom implementations. Twitter bio, putting like, I don't know, whatever. The hobbies of React developers, we love discussing this, right? It doesn't matter. The versioning of Angular, we love to have fun with this one, right? Oh my God, they went from version 1 to 2 to 7, and then React goes from 0.16 to 16, and we're like, that's how numbers work, right? We're fine with this. And then we have jokes about exiting Vim, and we have jokes about serverless. It's not serverless, it's someone else's computer. We get it, it's not funny, move on. So what we don't care about, and it's about to get uncomfortable because I'm going to mention the M word, we don't care about money, all right? So this happened at a conference. I'm doing a workshop. They asked me, each one of the conference of the conference teachers are going to go in a lounge and we're going to have discussion tables about different topics. So they give us topics to choose from. I chose freelancing, and then they said, it's in a different hotel, so after your workshop, just run to this other hotel to talk to people about the topic you chose. I'm finishing with the workshop, I'm running to the other hotel, and then I'm excited to talk to my group of people, and then I enter the room, I'm all sweaty, oh, where are my guys? And then I see this. This is a picture from my table. This is the freelancing table, and all the other tables were full. PHP, some random PHP framework, jQuery, it was full. Nobody wanted to discuss money and freelancing. But this is not a developer problem, so I don't want to blame us that it's something wrong with us and with our industry. It's just overall, we have this different opposite perception, and it's very awkward to talk about money. Just try this. Say to someone, I barely made enough for rent this month. These are comments. Yeah, mate, it's the same, got you. It's immediately happy and cozy, right? Try the opposite and say, I made a lot of money last month. You're like, what the fuck? Why would you say good stuff? It's always the opposite. So it's not a developer problem, it's a human problem. Why am I pointing at this human problem? Because it's never ever been easier to make money as a developer. Whether you're a consultant, freelancer, work at a company, whatever you do, we live in literally the easiest time to make money as a developer. Because just go 5 years back when there was a person who knew a person who knew a person who knew a person in the town that can do websites. And he was this magical guy in his garage coding websites, and everyone paid him $5K for a website. Now you just go to Webflow, drag a couple of things, and you have a website. So don't think that it's not going to happen again, and it's not going to change, and we're going to stay in our jobs forever. It's going to change, but right now it's super easy to be like super full stack, super mega stack, whatever you call it. This is my grandma. She can launch her startup because it's that easy. There's probably startup as a service where you pay, and somebody builds your startup. So don't be full stack. Nowadays, you can literally be marketing, backend, front-end, everything at once because there's a service for everything. Do you know why this surgeon is sad? Because he read this and probably you think, oh, his patient died or something happened, but it's not that. This is what it says on this piece of paper. I'm going to let you read it. It's sad, right? But he reached the peak of his career, whether it's a surgeon, whether it's a lawyer, whatever they are. They reach the peak, they make some money, but we made more money than them, which is ironic. We have this opportunity to grow, they don't. Literally everyone here can quit their job right now, don't do it. But if you do it, and you tweet, I need a job, I'm experienced a little bit, I know bits of CSS, you're gonna get a job tonight. Nobody else can do this in any other industry, it's only us. So, but why are we scared to charge for our work? Why are we scared to think about this at all? It feels wrong, I hate this. When I explain open source to my family, you're like, oh, so you're working for free for someone, huh? Because to us, it feels wrong to charge, but from people watching from the outside, they're like, you're crazy for working for free. So, but to us, it feels wrong. It should never feel wrong to ask money for the hard work that you're doing. Next up, anyone can write this. I also believe this from time to time, like when I build a product or something simple, like anyone can write this, but it's not true. And I especially see it during teaching and workshops and so on. We live in this Twitter bubble. We think everyone knows everything, but it's not like that. Every person here knows more about something than the other people here. So we shouldn't feel like anyone can write this. Probably nobody needs this. Like you have some hipster website about reviewing strawberries and you're like, oh, but no one's going to use it. There are tons of users who are going to use it, but if you only look at your Twitter bubble, you see only developers, they have certain hobbies, they're on Netflix, whatever. Nobody's talking about strawberries. So you're like, if I solve this problem, nobody's going to use my thing. But it's not like that. When I launched CZ, I was also scared. I was like, but these developers are going to do this, they're going to think that, and so on. And then I see like thousands of companies in the world. I'm like, does this company exist? Like it's somewhere in Japan. Yeah, but they don't use Webpack, they don't use this and that. When you look only at your Twitter group or Facebook, whatever you're using, you have a different perception. But when you actually launch the thing, you're going to see thousands of people actually need your solution. I'm not good enough. We've been over this. We're all good enough. GitHub stars and exposure. I wrote an article about this. We love GitHub stars, right? You open source something. I've spoken to a lot of open source people who are like, I love open sourcing it, but when the issues come, I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to see that. But we love the initial rush of like open sourcing something, getting the stars, because it gives us some value. Twitter bubble mentioned that. And this is the worst one. Well, at least I'm learning. There's so many people stuck at a shitty job right now because they believe this last thing. They have like 7-hour commute, 3.5 hours on the tube and 3.5 hours, and they're sitting on the tube like, well, this to learn about SVG today. No. Like if you suffer at your job for so long, just quit, tweet about it, and you're gonna get a different job tonight. It's crazy. Haters are allowed on the internet. This is the biggest one, that's why it deserves a separate slide. I saw this with the launch of CZ. Like, if you read the public feedback on Product Hunt, Twitter, and so on, they're just people being angry. This is $5, I can build it myself. But that happens only on the internet. It never happens. Nobody goes in the supermarket, sees milk, and he's like, this $3? I can buy a cow and milk it. No, nobody does that. It only happens on the internet. But what you see is you have like thousands and thousands and thousands of customers who are super happy about it, and they're not ranting on. Usually the haters are way louder, and I'm putting this here because I think this will discourage a lot of people from making something paid, because they look at someone else's product and they're like, oh, but did you see them? They released the product and everyone is hating on it. The reality is the customers are usually like, oh, this is cool, and I want to use it. It's not going to be easy in the upcoming years. I see the timer is running out, but we're going to end in like 5 minutes, so I hope that's fine. It's not going to be easy in the upcoming years, and we should just go back to see what happened in humanity to think that the same thing is going to happen again, maybe in 1 year, 5, 10, but it's going to happen. So we're going to go back to this job, factory lector. So these people existed. In a factory, they didn't have any entertainment, and they had a guy or girl, whatever, who read the newspaper to everyone just to entertain them. But this guy didn't have Hacker News, okay? He didn't have Medium, he didn't have Twitter, he was just going home happy that he has a job. One day, the boss walks in, puts in a radio, and he's like, Larry, you don't have a job, buddy. But this guy couldn't predict the radio, right? Now, we're bombarded with this news about no code, about Webflow, about everything that's going on in this world, machine learning, AI, and we're like, no. I'm gonna style rectangles for the rest of my life and make shit ton of money. We believe that nothing's gonna automate how smart we are, right? So wait for it, it's gonna happen. This is a tool from NVIDIA where you can draw like in Microsoft Paint and it generates this, right? But you're a better painter than this, right? We have self-driving cars. I don't need to explain that this shit right now, it's on our roads and it works and it can predict if ducks are crossing the street, but we're smarter because we're styling rectangles. And if you still don't believe me, I'm gonna give you a little test, you versus AI. So let's see the people in the back especially. AI can solve this, you can't. What is a dog? What is a muffin? What is a dog? What is a bagel? What is a mop? What is a dog? You can see someone in the back like, is that a bagel? Because AI is going to be better. Maybe we're going to work with it to create things, but we're not going to do everything as we do it right now from scratch. So this is a tool, I think it's from Microsoft, where you can like sketch things and then it generates entire layout and websites for you. And because it's Microsoft, probably going to add Clippy, and this Clippy is going to take your job. But seriously, just imagine if a manager needs a team to ship a product in the future, he might just need an Amazon Alexa or something. He sits down on his table, he has some ideas, and he's like, Alexa, suggest me a couple of responsive menu styles for that header. Alexa goes through 30,000 websites, finds the best combination, he just picks and moves on. He builds the thing. Then he's like, move that 3 pixels to the right, move that 5 pixels to the left, move that 4 pixels. And unlike the designers in your team, Alexa is not going to complain and bitch about, oh, my job, I hate my job, right? She's just going to do it. So we have to think about the future and quickly adapt, unless there is a solution. You want to work, oh no, you can fix printers. You're going to have a job forever, forever. Or you want to work on legacy systems. So if you want to work on Pascal or COBOL or Angular 1, you're always going to have a job. I love this website. It's called COBOL Cowboys, and their tagline is not our first rodeo, because probably they're in business for 250 years since development existed. And I knew that when I click this button, meet the company, I'm going to see literally the oldest people on earth. And this is the team. Nothing against them, but it was amazing to me that these people are making shit ton of more money than we're making with our Edge libraries and shit. This is their junior developer. I think I'm out of time, so let's rush through everything. Let's summarize this entire talk. Stop seeking external approval. We went over that. Stop seeking answers in other people's projects. Everyone is experimenting. We literally had a person who released a library while drinking beer. There's gonna be millions of companies tomorrow. Formic too. It's fucking amazing. So like sometimes we have the answers. It's not in other people's projects. Stop feeling insecure about your code, because nobody actually knows what they're doing. Less abstractions, more copy-paste, recognize breaking points. FOMO, to define it, is just a side effect of wrong priorities. So if you have the wrong priorities, you're going to have a lot of FOMO if you don't focus on the right things. So whatever you want to focus on, something important, whether it's users and money, and the last one, you'll be fine without Redux Helicopter 7.4. Hope you enjoyed the conference. Thank you very much. Thanks.